everybody, to the Casual Movie Club. This is the podcast where a couple of bros just bro down and talk about movies casually. I'm your host, Brian, and with me, as always, is my co-host, John.
What's up, Broheim?
Chillin', buddy. How's it going?
Hey, man. You threw me off a little bit with the intro.
Oh, I did?
That was funny. I liked it.
All right.
I liked how we kind of came together on that.
Yeah, like our first sequence just merged together.
Right. You know, it's like
surgically, even.
Right. You know, and it's like you had a thought that went in one end
and came out of you. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yes. Well, for those who haven't figured it out yet, or for those who have not listened to our podcast from last week where we told you what we were going to be reviewing this week on the Casual Movie Club podcast, a podcast where we talk about movies casually and have fun with them and rate them and whatever.
Stop pulling my legs, John. What did we watch?
Stop pulling your legs or stop surgically altering your legs so you couldn't extend them. We watched The Human Centipede.
That's right. A disgusting
first sequence.
A disgusting movie.
So I have to ask, Brian.
Uh-huh.
Did you like the movie?
I liked it. Now
I did too.
I want to qualify this. I didn't love it and I didn't hate it, but I liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would watch it again. I recommend this movie.
I do too.
Right at the top. Recommended.
I recommend it as well. Now, let me also say that because I've told some people. That when we talked about kind of that we do the podcast and sort of told them, hey, we do this podcast where we review movies and discuss them and everything. And people often would ask, well, what movies are you going to do next? And I said, oh, we're doing Human Centipede next. And most of the time, pretty much every time, I get the same reaction like, ugh.
Yeah.
What a horrible movie. Ugh. This sort of look of disgust. But I'm going to take a wild guess and say that you might agree with this, but it's really not that bad as long as you know what you're getting into. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, it depends on your definition of bad, and
No.
I would say that this is a bad movie. This is not. This is a movie that quality-wise, doesn't really hold up, but it's a good movie in the sense of the story, the individual, the uniqueness of it.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot of movies like it.
Yeah.
It's and in that respect, I think it's a good party movie. It's a good movie to watch on your own.
It's a good movie to watch when you're not sober.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but I would defend this movie as a good movie to watch, but qualify it as a bad movie. It's not going to win any awards. I'll tell you that.
Well,
or actually, did it win awards? I know this premiered at like the Toronto Independent Film Festival.
I don't know that it won awards because it was rated 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oh, that's IMDb though. That's.
Okay, so let's see. So, okay, according to IMDb, this actually did win a few awards.
That doesn't surprise me, but what awards did it win?
2009, the Austin Fantastic Fest. It won the winner for horror. Tom Six won the winner for horror. And Best Actor for Dieter Laser. Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. I don't know what those are, but it won the Best Direct Limited Release or Direct-to-Video Film. And then it won the Chainsaw Award. And then it was nominated for a Chainsaw Award for Worst Film. Interesting. So it won Best Film, but also was nominated for Worst Film in the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. That's interesting. Fright Meter Awards. It won the Fright Meter Award for Dieter Laser, so the doctor character, for Best Makeup, which is weird because I didn't really see any makeup for him. That was weird.
I noticed a lot of makeup for him.
I didn't. Okay, let me rephrase that. I didn't notice the makeup as a major thing. He looked just natural and normal throughout the entire thing, as far as I was concerned. But maybe Brian, you might have noticed something else.
I would argue that the lack of blemishes and just the contours of his face is a testament to how good the makeup was.
Okay.
He had a very, very expressive face.
Yes.
And I think the makeup had a lot to do with that. Near the end, when we were getting into the final scenes where he's getting shot, he's getting stabbed,
Right.
that kind of stuff, I thought the makeup was very well done there.
Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a lot of detail in the makeup throughout the movie, because as the sort of centipede aged, within the few days they were conjoined together, you could really see they really put detail in the third girl, the rearmost girl. You could really see her skin tone was very kind of dying and decaying. It was very
she was getting pale.
Yeah. And the first guy, the guy that was in the very front was always looked strong and healthy, but I just noticed the little bits of detail in there. Like they really were they were pretty detail oriented, but I think they missed some things though.
Makeup wise, or just movie wise?
Movie wise.
Okay, yeah. I like to get into like what makes a good movie versus a bad movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's certainly it is certainly worth pointing out the originality of this, because I cannot think of any other movie that talks about surgically connecting people mouth to anus than anus to mouth.
Yeah.
And whatnot. That's a first. I gotta say, that's a first, and hopefully a last. But
that's a first for me.
Yeah, me too. But even more so. But that's the only real first thing I see in this, because there were other tropes that I saw that have totally been done before. The whole car in the middle of nowhere gets a flat tire.
Yeah. Standard horror movie.
Get out of, you have two people that know nothing about changing a tire. So instead of trying to change the tire, they get out and run or get out and walk. Then they find a house in the middle of nowhere. Those are not unique at all. But everything that happens after they go in the house and after they get kind of drugged is unique.
Yeah, because then we delve into the surgery.
Right.
There was no real... I appreciated the lack of backstory for... was it Dietrich Laser?
So the Dr. Heiter, I think his character was?
Dr. whatever Heiter.
Yeah.
Joseph Heiter.
Yeah, you get a little bit of... You don't really get a backstory. You just get that he was a well-respected and sort of surgeon on the forefront for a long time, but he was then retired and whatever, but you don't know why he was retired. You don't know why he stopped working, because he looked like he didn't look like he was too old. He was very capable. He could lift people. He lifted the Asian guy out of his car. So, he was certainly not unable to perform the duties of a surgeon. So you don't know why he wasn't in practice anymore. You don't know any of that, but he does explain his sort of general, outlook on what he wants to do for constructing this centipede and all that stuff. So, he obviously was a knowledgeable surgeon, but there was a lot that I would have liked to have known about his backstory.
Well, I think that's the fun of it, though, is that you use your imagination to fill in that backstory. He's no doubt about it, a mad scientist.
Right.
I think maybe Alfred Hitchcock said this thing, but like the best horror movies leave a lot to your imagination.
Yeah.
Like Psycho, for example, they show the iconic murder scene in the shower,
right,
but they don't really show the stabbing itself. You get a couple of swings in, but the most of it is left to your imagination. The brutality of that murder.
Yeah.
So when it comes to movies like this, I'm curious to the backstory, like what led him to retire. Was he ostracized from the medical community?
Right, or did he do something egregiously wrong?
The do no harm thing, first off.
Right.
Like, he's breaking that rule from the get-go.
He broke the Hippocratic Oath right there.
Yeah. So, like, that kind of backstory is interesting to me, but I think it's more interesting because I'm filling it in with my imagination.
Sure, I could argue, I could see both sides being relevant here. I could see both sides having a case here, but I think there were still some details that didn't add up. So, for example, one of the big things for me is when the police come to investigate and come to for the first visit to the doctor's house, and the centipede people are in the basement and the lead guy is screaming in Japanese. Now, if you remember the beginning, when the girls first entered the house, after the one girl spills the water, he goes downstairs, gets the towel, and he comes back up with the syringe, right? You see him go in the door, the glass doorway, the French doors, into the living room where they're both sitting. So in theory, with the centipede people, so you see that in the beginning. In theory, later on, with the centipede in the basement screaming, they would just be at the bottom of the stairs. Their screams would be easily audible by anybody that came in the house. There was no partition or no door or nothing separating or isolating or providing any soundproof from his operating room in the basement to the top of the stairs, because the operating room was an open doorway. There wasn't even a door to close off the operating room, but the doorway to where the centipede went right out to the bottom of the staircase, and the top of the staircase was right by the door that went into the living room. So it would be blatantly obvious if someone who came into for someone to come in the house and hear screaming from the basement, because there was no partition to cordon that off. You know what I'm talking? You feel me?
I don't, because that door would be soundproofed.
No, so think about that. Okay, do you remember when he was doing the centipede surgery and putting them together?
I remember.
Okay, the camera was right outside the operating room door.
The doorway, yes.
Right, the doorway. There's no door to the operating room.
Correct.
So the operating room was an open doorway, and then the doorway into the recovery room was also open.
Right.
And then in that alcove connecting the two was the spiral staircase going up.
Yep.
Right? Now, think about when he's coming up the stairs.
When he's crawling up the stairs.
No. When he's in the very beginning of the movie, when he's walking up the stairs with a syringe ready to give it to the other girl that spilled the drink.
Yeah.
He's just walking up the top of the stairs. So in theory...
Well, let's...
Stay with me on this. So the operating room doorway is wide open. The recovery room doorway is wide open to the alcove at the bottom of the spiral staircase. So if you walk up the spiral staircase, if someone is standing at the bottom of the staircase and says, "Hey, can you grab me a glass of water?" you can communicate with them.
There's a door there. There's a door from that front hallway
into the living room.
So the French doors,
right?
In the living room with the two couches and the fireplace, right? There's French doors. You go through the French doors. Immediately to your right, there is the front door. And then down that hall to the left is a door that goes into an alcove that has a spiral staircase that goes down to the basement. Right, but... So when he went, he went down those stairs, got the syringe, came back up, and gave her the shot. I don't understand.
The top of the spiral staircase.
There's a door to that spiral staircase.
There's not.
There is.
There is not.
There is. He crawled past it when he was climbing up the stairs after being stabbed by the scalpel.
There's not, and I can show you this on the movie.
I would like to see it, because the cop kicked that door open to go down those stairs.
No, he didn't. Okay, there's no way to get from the front door into the living room without going past the top of where the spiral staircase was.
True, but there's a door in front of those stairs.
I did not see one. And I'm pulling up the movie right now.
Let's pause our audio.
Okay. So we just took another look at the movie, and Brian, what are your findings?
The layout of the house is confusing to me.
Yeah. So the way that I understand it and the way that I'm interpreting it is kind of it almost looks like a bow tie for the house. You know, they entered in the middle, and then they turned to the right when they walked in, and then at the big side of the right side of the bow tie is the living room. And then, you know, the living room has French doors that lead into it. Now, in order to get into the living room, you walk through the French doors, but before you walk through the French doors, on the left side of those French doors is a staircase that goes down to the basement to the operating room with the open door and the recovery room with the open doorway.
Right.
Okay. So that having been said, what doesn't add up here is all the screaming from the centipede in the basement when the cops come back, or when the cops are there for the first time even, would easily be audible as soon as the cops walked into the house, because they walk in at the center of the bow tie to into the hallway. They make a right to go towards the living room. They go up to the French doors by the living room. There's that open staircase right there. The centipede is in the operating room with the open doorway. They would easily hear the screams, yet they don't. You feel me?
Yeah, the blueprint of the house it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I never really considered it until you brought that up, and looking through it, I think that the way they shot the police entering and the girls entering and then the police leaving, it doesn't. I don't know. There's something about the layout of the house doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I hear that, but I think apart from that, the fact that the screams and the yelling from the basement was not overheard by the cops when they were there the first time, I think is a major oversight.
Well, I would assume that the doctor that has a lab such as he does, situated the way that it is, I would imagine that it would be a large oversight on his part if he didn't put any kind of soundproofing in there,
right?
And maybe even a separate HVAC setup.
Sure. No, I don't disagree with that. But are you seeing the open layout that I'm kind of talking about? You know, the open layout meaning the no doorway to the operating room, the no doorway at the bottom of the stairs, and no doorway at the top of the stairs.
I see I see the no doors, but yeah. I'm seeing those no doors at separate parts of the movie, which shows different rooms, different hallways, different egresses, different ingresses.
Yeah,
it's if the more I think about the layout of this house, the more confusing it becomes.
Yeah, and that might be a slight oversight on the editing, or maybe it just might be something where you might want to look at the movie again, or just kind of fast forward around to see if you can get a little more clarity on that. Because I think, to me, especially because they've shown the outside of the house, you know, kind of looking at it as this house that has a big area on the right and a big area on the left, connected by a small area in the middle. The small area in the middle would be your hallway connecting the two big areas, and off the small area in the middle was the bedroom that they had been in a few times, the pool room on one side and the living room on the other. You know, could they have shot that and told that story a little better? Sure, absolutely, 100%. But I think that maybe there might have been a few edits that might have had that in question, and that might have been what's tripping you up.
Yeah. Well, all that to be said, do you think this is a good movie? Because I know we talked about this, covered it a little earlier. In your estimation, is this a good movie to you? Especially considering the people that you've talked to, they're like, oh, you weren't doing Human Centipede. So I think it's a good movie for in terms of watchability and for what it presents itself as. Yeah. But I would say objectively, this is a bad movie.
I think it's a good...
Campy, even.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for a movie. You know, it's a good idea.
It's a good idea for a movie, but the movie is not good.
Right. The idea is good. The execution leaves a little bit to be desired.
See, I disagree.
Really?
With that. I think that this movie, this idea, is executed as well as it could be.
Yeah.
I think this is a serious horror movie, and I
wasn't scared at all.
I was grossed. I was grossed out. I was horrified. I wasn't scared per se, but I'm putting myself in the shoes of the victims and imagining their plight, their pain, what I would do in that situation.
Yeah.
I think there's really not much you can do except hope you're not the center segment and not get poo-poo in your mouth. And by the way, for the second and third segments, the middle girl and the last girl, I don't think that they would be able to survive. This is not a viable...
No.
You can't subsist off of poop. You can't.
Right, and I mean, you know, spoiler alert, but you know, spoiler alert is not a new thing here, but
we were assuming you've seen this or are familiar with these movies,
right?
If you're listening to podcasts about them,
right. But at the very end of the movie, who is the only segment that survived?
The center segment, the middle
right.
girl.
The middle girl is the only one that survived because the lead guy killed himself, and the rearmost girl died, I guess, because of infections or something that happened.
Yeah, she got infected, and it just... Yeah, I mean, you're bound to get infection if you're surgically connected, if your mouth, which is surgically connected to an anus, where doo-doo comes from.
And you're eating doo-doo that was processed by not one but two different people.
If at all, if it even makes it. Yeah, I guess it would.
Yeah, I mean, because you figure the guy outputs it into the next person, then the next person outputs it into the third person.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't remember where I've seen this, but I know I've seen a number of things that talked about how this was not medically possible at all. Even though the film, the Tom Six, the guy who did this, wanted to give it the 100% medically accurate, but like no one would survive.
Well, it is medically accurate. You could do this.
It's medically accurate in how the people were sewn together.
It's medically possible,
right? But not necessary that the people would survive longer than a couple of days.
Maybe 3. I mean, the thing is, like, you'd have to keep all 3 people hydrated at all times.
They would have to live off IVs.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you can live off of human waste.
No.
I mean, the concept itself is disgusting, but, there's no way that someone can...
I mean, to speak for yourself, John.
Hey.
Don't kink shame me.
Hey.
Wow. You leave that in. You leave that in this podcast.
This is Casual Movie Club. We don't edit the podcast. We do not edit anything.
Yeah.
So, all of this being what it is, would you... So, you said you recommend this movie.
At the top of the episode, yes, I would recommend this. 100%.
I would recommend it too as well. And... to those that may be squeamish or concerned about it, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of, surgery that you see. There's not a ton of like blood, guts, and gore. It's not that kind of a movie. In terms of being kind of, quote, medically accurate, there is a degree of medical legitimacy in showing how he connected the 3 people together. So, like, there's that little bit of legitimacy. But apart from all of that, I think there's that lunacy of why would you connect 3 human beings together, mouth to ass and mouth to ass? This movie really isn't that bad to watch. Especially if you're only going to watch it once.
It's a Frankenstein story. Like,
right.
Why would Frankenstein put together human parts?
Right.
Like, it's a God exercise.
Right.
Like, can I do it? I mean, medically, science says I could. Ethically, should I do it? No.
Right.
But
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. Medically, you could, but ethically, you shouldn't. Not by a long shot.
right.
Yeah. So that being said, are you ready to do some numbers?
Yeah, let's break it down, baby.
Awesome. So now in terms of numbers, those of you that might be mildly curious and new to the podcast, I want to welcome you to the Casual Movie Club because everyone, now one is restricted, but all are welcome here in the Casual Movie Club. So we love to have anyone joining us. And if you're wondering what in the world are you talking about with these numbers that you're going to do? Well, the numbers pertain to our leaderboard. So you can go to casualmovieclub.com and you can look at our leaderboard, which has our ratings, and they are averages based on the both Brian's and my scores. But things like the acting, like how well did the actors convey the story? How believable were they? Do you feel like you were watching actors doing a job, or did you feel like you were watching people that were genuinely suffering or genuinely going through what was happening in the movie? How was the dialogue or the script, the quality of the writing? Was it believable? Was it stupid? Was it campy? What have you? The presentation factor, how was the editing and visual effects usage? Was it too much, not enough? Was there a ton of green screen in there? That kind of thing. The music and sound, how was the soundtrack? How did your ears enjoy the movie? Did you hear fun things? Was the music good? That type of thing. The uniqueness, has this movie been done before? Is this something we've seen in another flick from that time frame? So this does not count towards movies that came out after this movie had come out. And then, of course, the engagement factor. Did the movie keep you engaged? Were your eyes glued to the screen? Were you on the edge of your seat? Or were you just on your phone talking to people on Twitter? So those are our criteria, and those are the things you can also look at on our leaderboard on our website, casualmovieclub.com. You can also interact with us on our website, casualmovieclub.com. There's a contact button. You can get all of our different platforms that we're on. So you can go to Google Play, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube. All those things are on the bottom of every page of our website. You can contact us on there. You can even participate in our merch that we have or our Patreon. So if you want to show your love for us by sending us a couple of bucks every month, you can go to our Patreon page right from there and show your support there. We would certainly appreciate anything that you can do. And you can also get in touch with us on our various forms of social media, like Twitter and Instagram. We're both are on there, both of those things at Casual Movie Club. You can also call us or leave us a message. It is not a live number, so you want to send us a text message or send us a voicemail. We will not answer that directly. So I know some people are squeamish about calling random numbers, but the number to call to do that, which I can never remember. I know it's 402 something, but Brian, what's that number?
You're gonna remember someday.
I know 402.
No. It's 402-882-2742. That's 402-882-2742. Send us a text, leave us a voicemail. If you want to engage us that way, we'll possibly share it on the next episode.
Yes, and I knew I got the area code right, so one of these days I'll recall the whole thing. But that all being said, let's jump into the numbers. And Brian, how about we start with me? The acting. I actually really enjoyed the acting in this. I mean, the girls themselves, when they weren't stitched mouth to ass, were kind of annoying, but their acting when they were kind of in their panicky sort of demeanor, I thought they really kind of took their annoying, vibe and translated that accurately to how someone would be if they were in that situation. I thought Dieter Laser was really weird and very freaky as the deranged mad scientist. Am I going to give it a perfect score for acting? No. But I'm going to give it a 4.25 for acting because I think the acting was quite good. Brian, what do you think?
My goodness, I did not like the acting at all.
Really?
Yeah, I share your feelings on the girls. Now they were annoying, and I think they were supposed to be annoying in
Right.
the beginning when they were in the hotel room, and then when they were in the car.
Right.
But their annoyingness felt very B movie. It was like the acting in a Skinamax flick, almost. Like I did not believe them at all.
Interesting.
The Japanese actor, the Japanese character, the lead centipede, the lead segment.
Yeah.
He was more believable. He was probably the most believable person. The doctor was weird. I like the doctor. The doctor's my favorite character.
Yeah.
He was a little over the top with some of his mannerisms, kind of hammed it up a bit. Didn't like the acting. All that to say, I would score this probably a 2.5.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't like it.
Wow. That's really, really different. Okay. Interesting. So, Brian, why don't you keep us going? What do you give the script? How did you like the quality of the writing? The script?
I really liked the writing. I really liked how the dialogue was strung together. Even the doctor, when he was being weird with the police, I thought that was really well done, believable as a crazy recluse retired surgeon. I thought it all rang true. The police, especially. So for the script, I would give it a 4.
Okay, and I've got to say I actually really agree with that. Now, there's really nothing else that I can think of that I would want to give the script any other bonus points for that, because, you know, to quote something you've said in previous episodes, it didn't offend me, but it there was nothing about it that was earth shattering. So it was neither great nor terrible. So I'm gonna be similar. I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay.
And moving on with that, the presentation, I actually, and I think in this, we usually, when we do the presentation, we kind of refer to that as the editing and the visual effects. But I think in this particular movie, makeup is going to have to kind of be a part of this, because the way that the three of those actors were stringed together as a centipede was very convincing. Apart from, you were mentioning, while we were watching it, you were mentioning that, kind of I think it was the first, second, or third, like her mouth looked really high up on the person's backside.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that is still plausible because, again, not to be graphic or anything, but, I've been with enough people, so I know that the location of that orifice does vary based on people. So some people have it higher up on their back, some people it's lower on their back and, more vertical. So, I don't know that that's necessarily a point of contention or something to take points off for. So I'm actually going to give the presentation a 4.25 because I think that the makeup was really solid and, camera work and all that was well in line with telling the story. Before I finish my segment, though, I am going to take a little bit of a revision to what I said, because the kind of based on our conversation from earlier, there were a little bit of edits and such that didn't make it completely obvious or didn't make things completely clear on the layout of the house and such. So I'm going to take it down to a flat 4.
You take backsies mid-segment. Mm-hmm. I like it.
And now, what do you think of the presentation?
So the buttholes.
Let's talk about the buttholes.
The buttholes seemed a little high to me, and I understand, for sanitary purposes, I understand that the actors wore rubber underwear, so there wasn't really a lot of cross-contamination between butthole to mouth.
Right, and there were showers, I heard. There was a lot of showers before each take.
Yeah, and a lot of massages afterwards also. They were on their hands and knees all day.
Right.
But the buttholes seemed really high for me, and I've seen my fair share of buttholes. So
I don't think you could have put that any better.
So, but to me, they just seemed a little high. So that was a little off-putting. Make your buttholes a little more realistic, please. The butthole placement. But we're talking about presentation. We're talking about makeup. We're talking about how this film, as a total package, was presented. How was it? And I'm going to echo a lot of your sentiments. I think the makeup was on point, really well done. The progression of the last segment, Jenny, I believe her name was really well done. The pus that was squeezed out of her cheek, I thought was really gross.
That was a nice touch
and believable. The bullet hole wounds, I thought were really good. I'm gonna give it a solid 4 myself. I thought the presentation was really well done.
Cool.
Considering what we got, thought it was great.
Cool. And then, Brian, why don't you keep us going with music and sound? What did you think of what did your ears think of the movie?
To me, music and sound was almost non-existent. I didn't notice a soundtrack, and I've said before that a soundtrack that I don't notice is a hallmark of a good soundtrack, but I thought that this could have used something with a little more presence. It could have filled out the movie a bit more. I was deeply disappointed with the lack of score or just sound effects in general. I could have used a lot more squishy. I could have used a lot more tearing sounds in some parts. As gross. Yeah, I see that face you're making. It was really lacking in music and sound, and for that I'm going to give it a 2.
Ooh, that's harsh.
I stand by it.
All right. Okay. Well, I disagree with that because I think that, I think if there was more tearing sounds and that sort of thing, that would imply that I think that might take some of the surgeon's credibility away, that he didn't, surgically stitch them together tight enough, or whatever it is.
Yeah, you can say it tight enough.
Yeah. So I think I don't recall any notable score elements of it. So I think there's certainly some lacking there. But then again, this movie didn't really need a lot of score, because I think sometimes a lack of music or a lack of scoring can add to the sort of weirdness, or add to the tension that comes in the movie. So I'm going to give this a 3.25, just a little higher than you, but still, I think it does leave a little bit to be desired. Now, uniqueness. This really is a very unique movie. However, there are some things that make it not unique. The whole girls driving a car through a forest and there's a flat tire and they get marooned in the forest. That is not unique. And this movie came out in 2008, 9?
That sounds right. I don't have
somewhere
IMDb
around there
in front of me, but
so that trope has been done before. Just think of what's the movie I'm thinking of? House of Wax. That movie has the exact same type of thing where people have, there's some sort of car trouble. They're marooned on the side. They find a little town. Something happens. Hostile. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, a little bit.
It's backpackers, foreigners in a foreign city.
Yeah, but I'm talking specifically like a car. In a forest kind of thing. But
sure.
But you're right. That type of sort of trope has been done many times before. So there's going to be some point deduction for that. But apart from that, the whole mad scientist, yeah, that's a thing. But a doctor stringing people together mouth to anus, that's unique. So uniqueness is going to be a 4 for me.
Oh man, you're in my head. The tropes,
better your head than somewhere else.
The tropes I can look past, because the tropes are usually a vehicle to move the story along. Usually they're used more as exposition than anything else.
Right.
How do we get these people into the scenario in which we to tell the story that we want to tell?
Right.
There's a lot of like Friday the 13th tropes that cross over to this. this movie takes a lot of inspiration from other horror movies, and that's fine. But to the main crux of the film, the Human Centipede, we talked about Frankenstein already, and that's probably the closest comparison that I can make. But again, ass to mouth. You can't get more unique in a horror film than that.
Right.
So I really want to give this a 5, but I can't based off of just everything else around it. So I'd give it a 4.
Okay. It is a unique movie, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Engagement factor. How engaged were you during this movie? How pulled in to the plot were you?
Sad to say, not very much. Now, I've seen this movie a couple times, maybe a few times before.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of film that you can just, you watch it for the shock factor, for the, dare I say, the hero shots of all the people sewn together.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of moments that dragged, a lot of sections that dragged on.
I can see that.
And once the big shock has worn off, you're really left to like, well, what are they going to do next? How are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
When are the cops going to come? When is this going to be over? So I wasn't as engaged as I would like to think I was.
Okay.
And I brought it up several times already. This is the kind of movie that you can just have on the background. You watch with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
You can easily talk over it and not lose the thread of the story.
Yeah, which we did.
Yeah, which we did often. And for that, I'm going to give Engagement a 2.
Ooh, that's harsh.
That's the kind of film that I think that it was.
Wow. Okay. Well, I echo a lot of your sentiments. And, I think that, is this movie engaging? I think if you're specifically someone that likes this type of thing, where you really like the shock value and the sort of weird surgeon, and I mean, if the surgical aspects of it, and if this is something that pulls you in for your specific interests, it's a very engaging film because you want to see kind of where things go from there. That being said, there are a lot of things that are predictable. Like once the centipede gets loose and they try to escape, and it's like you can really kind of see where things are going. So, and a lot of times they're definitely going to go where you're kind of thinking they're going to go. So there is some predictable factor in this movie as well. I agree with you. I was picking up my phone a couple of times throughout the movie because you can kind of come and go from the movie as you please, because there are things that just take time to go through. So am I going to give it a 2? No, I'm going to say it's a 3. I'm going to say right in the middle, because there are some folks that will kind of be drawn to see like what's going to happen next, but it's not enough for me to go any higher than 3. And I even feel like 3 is a little generous, but I'm going to give it that anyway.
I want to call something out that I think is interesting.
Sure.
Several times throughout this recording, you've referred to the people sewn together as the centipede.
Right.
And they are a centipede in the sense that they're, I guess, people sewn together. If we're going off the basis of the doctor,
right.
I think it's interesting. I've not thought. Again, I've seen this movie a few times, but I've never thought of them as a single organism. I've never thought of them as the centipede. I've always thought of them as the fucking poor, unfortunate souls who were sewn together.
Right.
So, not saying anything, not calling you out, but I find it very interesting hearing you refer to them as the centipede.
I'm only
as a
doing
singular
so
organism. Okay.
I'm only doing
shoot that down.
I'm only doing so out of convenience. Because it's easier to say, quote, the centipede, and I'm air quoting it. It's easier to say the centipede than the 3 people sewn together.
I guess
it's just a convenience thing.
All right.
It's not like I support it or condone it by any means. Do you want to change?
What about their humanity, John?
Hey, their humanity is never in question. So do you want to change any of your ratings, or do you feel like you are good with what you have?
Let me look.
because I'm
Presentation,
looking at where this is going to lie, and it's very interesting.
Script, presentation. I don't know, man. Where am I at on presentation?
You gave presentation a 4.
I don't know. It's really well presented.
Yeah.
How about the script? Was that a 4 also?
You gave the script a 4, yes.
Let me knock the script down to 3.5.
Okay.
Because I like the dialogue. It was believable as it was written, but after thinking about it, it wasn't all that great. I still think it's good. I stand by my points, but I'd put it at a 3.5.
Okay. And I've already used my take backsies, I believe.
You have.
Okay. So I think it's safe to say the numbers are in.
All right, let's hear it.
And they go a little something like this. Acting 3.38. Script 3.5. Presentation 4. Music and sound 2.63. Uniqueness 4. Engagement factor 2.5. For a grand total average of 3.33. Putting it just below Footloose and above Wild Wild West.
I like it.
I think that's a good place for it.
I think that's awesome. I like that placement.
And it's funny because we have, Footloose is 0.03 higher than that, and Batman from 1966 is 0.03 higher than that. So both Footloose and Batman are better movies in our eyes than the Human Centipede.
You know what? I would agree with that. As much as I hated Footloose, I would say that it's a better movie than the Human Centipede.
So on a desert island, if you had to choose between Footloose and the Human Centipede, would you pick Footloose?
Well, I mean, oh, geez.
Because according to the numbers, you would. And so would I, apparently.
No, I would pick Human Centipede.
Oh, wow.
I'll pick Human Centipede.
All right. Well, there they are, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers. And I think it's time to pick our next movie.
Well, maybe we shouldn't pick a next movie. Let's. How do you feel about doing a surprise film?
I love it. And it's funny because that was something I asked you about doing, but we are going to switch things up here on the Casual Movie Club podcast. So we are going to do 2 weeks, or for those months with 5 Mondays, we're going to do 3 weeks of movies where we kind of pick them the way we normally have. And then for 2 weeks out of every month, we are going to surprise the other person with a movie choice. So next week, I get to pick the movie, but I'm the only one that knows what movie it's going to be. Brian's not going to know, and neither are any of you.
Oh.
But it also means that the following week, Brian gets to do the same thing. And he gets to pick the movie, and neither any of you or I will know what the movie is until he and I watch it, and then we do our little podcast thing about it.
I have a question for you. Do you know right now what your movie is going to be?
No.
Okay.
Do you know what yours is?
I do.
Really?
I do. I already know what my movie is.
What is it?
But that's why would just ruin the surprise.
I just wanted to see if I can catch you off guard.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, right.
I'm that gullible.
Yeah, so basically, Brian's movie is going to be not this next week, but the following week will be Brian's surprise movie. But next week will be my surprise movie. And I know how Brian loves musicals, so maybe we'll watch a musical. I don't know.
Son of a bitch.
I don't know. I have to think about it. So next week will be a surprise movie for Brian and all of you. And then the following week will be a surprise movie for me and all of you. And then we'll be back and then June, beginning of June will be a movie we pick at the end of, not next week's, but the following week's episode.
Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Right. So we want to make things interesting. And as far as making things interesting as well, if you guys want to really help us keep things interesting, we would love you guys to join us on our Patreon account. If you go to our website, casualmovieclub.com, click on Patreon on the top, it will take you to our page where you can join for as little as $1 a month, but you can join for as much as you want per month. So as well, you can, if you feel like being very generous, you can get your very own reward that we will customize just for you. So either way, we would love to have you as a member of our Patreon if you are so inclined.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So on that note, we thank you very, very much for listening to us. We always appreciate it. And as always, everyone is welcome in the Casual Movie Club. Please feel free to share our podcast with anyone you think would enjoy it. And as always, we'll see you next time.
See ya.